on it and you find that it forms rich compost which you can then mix in your soil. So try and create zero wastage on your farm. Then you can also go in with what we call tea manure. Tea manure, just like we make tea, you get a sack, you put your chicken manure inside, then inside that sack you put it in a drum, and then when you put it in the drum, your 200-liter drum, that water that will be found there is what we call the tea. So that tea manure, you can drench it in your soils. For example, I had a friend, they were telling me that they did not have enough money to buy urea, so they were using a lot of tea manure, and their maize was dark green. So it's very rich in nitrogen. So you can, incorporate tea manure, you drench it in your soils. Others do spray it on the crop, but that one is a bit risky because you don't know how aged that manure is. If it's not too aged, you can scorch your crop. So I just advise that you drench it in your soils. So just keep that in mind. You just make the tea, and that would be very, very, very good. Then even chemicals, buy from reputable agro dealers. So the labels do have, the ZEMA labeling on it. So okay, this is a ZEMA approved product. Also check the expiry date. Some chemicals, you find that they're trying to offload them very fast. They're about to expire and then they're so cheap. So just check that and have that in mind. So other things, you will find that maybe they'll put the word MOA, so mode of action. So mode of action, that's basically just tells you what type of chemical it is. So you avoid also repeating things with the same mode of action. And rotate. You can rotate, you do a contact, the other week you do a systemic, that kind of thing. So like I mentioned, proper storage, very important. Train your workers. Some will tell you, no, I know what to do, but in actual sense they don't know. Some people, you tell them, what did I tell you to do? They fail to tell you what you told them to do. So make sure that they understand these things. So align these your chemicals on a shelf off the floor. Ensure the place is well ventilated to prevent gas buildup. Don't allow food or people to eat, or don't mix your feed and chemicals in the same place. You really never know what can happen. And on your farm, if you're able, just get a fire extinguisher. You never know whenever you can have a fire. Just have a fire extinguisher. You just invest in one. What do you call this? Builders World has these safety signs. Even China More, you can put danger signs on anything to put no entry. And even your storeroom, don't allow anyone just to be entering your storeroom carelessly. So if you have keys for your storeroom, it's either you manage the storeroom, or if you have a supervisor, they manage the keys. If a worker wants something, they go and open, they remove those things, the things are returned, put back. You can even create an inventory for all your tools. If you have 10 shovels, you write 10 shovels. People can sign that I got a shovel, they returned it. Because, oh my goodness, tools on the farm, I'm telling you, every single year, I don't know how many holes we buy. It's like these holes have legs on the farm. So prepare a farm inventory. So the inventory just helps you know what is there, what is available, so that you don't have a situation where you keep losing things. So you label, we have 5 rakes, this one got this one got that, this one returned this, and you're able to manage your inventory, and you can just track when something is missing or when something is not there, and someone is held accountable for it. Or if it goes missing, you just deduct from someone's pay. There are certain things I just say, I'm going to deduct from your money because where did you where did you take this, that kind of thing. Then also understand your spray nozzle. So wherever you get your sprayer, you can ask them to just show you, okay, how do I calibrate the sprayer? Amiran has very good sprayers. They can show you how to calibrate, how to spray well. Jacto sprayers are also good. These are the knapsack sprayers. And then there's this South African brand for the motorized one, but there are quite a lot of motorized ones on the market. I think even Saro should have motorized sprayers if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, just keep your records of everything. Even the operator who was spraying, keep those records and just ensure that we have showers that they can shower after, maybe after spraying or just after a day with chemicals. They shower. We have a overall that the worker wears when spraying. So when he's spraying, he'll put on that overall. It remains in the storeroom. After some time, when it's dirty, it's washed, put and dried. They have their gloves. They also have their goggles. So just ensure that the safety and the well-being is there for your workers. So you can even host trainings for the ones who are spraying. You invite an agronomist, or you and usually most agronomists, if you are buying products from the company, the agronomists, you won't even have to really pay. You won't even have to pay for the service. They'll come on the farm. They'll train the workers. That's one way you can do it. Or if you want, you hire a consultant. So I'm thinking now we have global gap requirements. So this is more of production compliance. So it's either we can look at this, or okay, no, yeah, we can even look at global gap compliance so that we can look at the budget and cabbage tomorrow and all the marketing things so that we finish this in time. So global gap is structured by 4 pillars. So if you want to land in the export market, you want to be with you want to be with the big boys that are exporting, you have to be global gap certified. So it's actually quite strict. Very I think I would say it's actually among I would say it's really quite strict, because you have to have your farm records on point. So everyone considering export market for your high value vegetables, this is what I'm going to share with you. So it's structured with 4 key pillars. So pillar go, so food, there's food safety, so safe food production from farm to table, environmental stability, sustainability, protecting soil and water, and biodiversity. Then the other one is workers' health and safety, so fair treatment, training, protection of your workers, animal welfare, and humane treatment of your animals under care. So whatever you do, you have to ensure that all of these things, you are doing them. So these are the core principles under global gap. And in Zambia, you can do your global gap certification. I know that there are certain payments you have to make, and then they come and do some inspections. So under the compliance, it includes control points categorized as major masts. So your major masts, these you have to be 100% compliant. They are 100% required. Then you have minor mass. So this is 95%. So if you're like, at 95%, it's just there. Then recommendations, these are things that, oh, I think you can do this better. Maybe to ensure that as you supply our vegetables, you do this. So it's not mandatory, but it's encouraged. But you need to ensure that your major mass you hit at 100%. So under crop production requirements, site history and farm layout, very, very key. Remember yesterday, so everything that we have been talking about, it now starts to add up, because you want to be an organized business, not whereby you've planted here, your pit latrine is there, the borehole is next to the pit latrine. No, 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 no. Such things you avoid on the farm. And then even on your farm layout, ensure you have a place where there's a pit latrine your workers can go to. Not that they're doing their business just anywhere on the farm or just in some random space. Have a pit, even if it's a pit latrine. We have pit latrines on the farm, about 3 of them. They have where pit latrines, a tap where they can wash their hands. So you just ensure that The safety of the food is there. And then even there is the toilet, they're also able to shower, especially if they've done spraying. So even your layout of your farm has to be very organized, where there's low risk of contamination on anything. So you do your maps of your fields. I told you, demarcate your fields into the blocks. So they will assess, okay, this is how the field arrangement is. These are where the water sources are. This is where the infrastructure is. This is where the taps are. If you're to come to the farm, you'd find it very organized. You see how the blocks are laid out, how the water sources are, where the taps are. Everything is in a specific layout. So this is very, very key as you do your farming. Then even soil management, they'd want to have documented soil testing. So all your soil testing, there is a history. We tested at this point. This is what is in our soils. These are the fertilizers we've been putting in our soil. So you have that record. You have that history. You have to do practices that prevent soil erosion. You ensure that you have your cover crops. You don't deforest. You don't take out all the trees. You're using compost. You're mulching. You're doing such practices that don't wash off the soil. You're adding organic matter to your soils. Then for all your use of fertilizers, you have your record. So like I've been talking, record keeping, record keeping, record keeping. These are pillars of running a successful business. So even how your chemicals are stored, they'll see, okay, where do you put your chemicals? Then you tell them, no, the chemicals are in the house. They'll just non-starter. Those you find that under the major master, like these ones, not compliant, it can't even be at 95%. So have a storeroom. Just make that layout, even if it's a very simple structure. Have your storeroom, your office. They're able to say, okay, this is an organized business. Even your pesticide and chemical use. For example, UK, maybe you want to export to the United Kingdom. There's a specific list of chemicals that you can only use, and then they'll say we only use these are the only ones maybe that are allowed. Maybe you want to supply another market in Europe. These are the only ones that in the European Union countries, this is what we allow. So use only registered products for specific crops in your country. So this is where you'd now maybe have to now start investing in maybe crop protection from Syngenta, or these others, BSF, or these others that are properly registered. So proper training and certification of your spray operators, very key. Your protective gear, you observe all the things I was mentioning, your pre-harvest intervals, your re-entry periods, your storage is done well, disposal of your chemicals, your toxic corner, you have that. Expired products, you're not using expired products. And then they also do an assessment of your water. They test your water sources. How is your water done? So you find that you need to do a water test from we did a water test from UNZA. You test your water quality. You find that maybe it's been contaminated with because it's very close to the toilet, it's crossed over. And then what do? So the water testing for microbial contamination. And then drip irrigation is also preferred, especially because of water efficiency. That one about sustainability and use of drip is very sustainable um for all your production. So then even harvest and post-harvest handling. So you use clean and sanitized tools and containers. Harvesters are trained in hygiene practices. So if you're to come in our packaging shed, before they enter the shed, they wash their hands. When they enter the shed, there are taps to wash their hands. There is a dryer to avoid people using the same towel, so they just put their hands under the dryer and it blows air for them. Then they change. There's the locker room. They wear the uniform. They take off anything that needs to be taken off, and then it's in the locker room. We tried to give them boots, these white boots, the butter ones, but it was too hot. So we opted for white Crocs, which are just specific for in the shed. No one goes with them. They're not going with them to the toilet or outside or whatever. No, these are things that are kept in the shed. And then, provide your workers clean drinking water, toilets, rest areas. We have a small place, a small structure that they can sit and have their lunch in, where they can cook their lunch from. Provide PPE. They would want to ensure that you're doing proper contracts, fair wages, good working hours. But on the farm, sometimes working hours, it's the farm. Work stops when the task is done. But what you can do, especially if your operation is big, you do where people have shifts. You can do shifts, or if people worked overnight, the next day they rest. You give them time to rest, and you pay them overtime. So you also ensure that no child labor or forced labor, and then training records for all the staff involved in use of pesticides, machinery, and first aid. So you have to have all those records. Traceability, each record must be traceable from seed to harvest to buyer. So even on your fields, you can actually label your field and you put date of planting, variety planted, seed used. So those records from seed management, this is a chemical we use at this week, that week, we fertilized this, that at this rate, all the records till point of harvest, so that you're able to track and trace if anything goes wrong. So even your input use, your irrigation, water testing, equipment calibration, worker training, you're able to track. So all these records must be kept for at least 2 years. So this is a practice you just instill in yourself, that I need to keep records. You buy anything, buy folders. You come in my office, there are folders. Folders for fertilizers, folders for maybe irrigation use, folders for feed, folders for what? You put everything in there. You file all those records, then you write them down. At the end of the month, you do your expenses, you do your income, you see, okay, this is how much we made, this is how much we spent. Okay, you're able to have that record. So there's the auditing and certification process. So there's the gap assessment. You do a self check or work with a consultant who can say, okay, put this in place, this is what is missing. They give you some recommendations and then you implement. So you can choose a certification body. You find out, okay, who is certifying? You go there, they certify you. You undergo an audit. So this is where they even do annual surveillance audits, and then you address any conformities. And then after that, you can receive your global gap. It sounds quick, but you just have to instill a very good, strict practice of record keeping and just adhere to all the regulations. So you can check the checklist for more information you can find. So the benefits of this global gap certification is you have access to export, and not only export, but you have access to premium markets, so which just widens your pivot, especially on the global market. So it's better farm documentation and professionalism. When you're in preparing for global gap, you really treat your farm like a business, because you really just want to maintain that market. So it's also improved food safety and reduced health risks. You know that this food is not harmful, it's not toxic, and even the safety of the food, it's very, very safe. So it also, this if you prepare yourself in that way, it helps even attract funding. It helps you attract off-take agreements with buyers. If a buyer comes and finds a well-organized farm, they'll be like, okay, actually our things will be packaged well, they'll be transported very clean. It will be a very healthy space, a very soft space. So position your farm as a climate smart farm that uses sustainable practices. So you're composting, you improve your soils, you have an integrated approach. For example, if you're going to be keeping fish ponds, the water from the ponds, you irrigate in the field and all of that. So, like we said, the major mass is 100% compliance required, your minor mass 95%, and then recommendations encouraged but not mandatory. So your major mass non-negotiable standards 100%. So these relate directly to food safety, traceability, chemical handling, and legal compliance. So if you fail in one, it will lead to non certification. So you have to have all of that in check. And then traceability, all produce must be labeled with lot numbers, plot of origin, harvest date, and farm ID. So in that actual sense, you can actually track if you label all your fields, and if specific workers manage certain lines or certain portions, you know that this one did this worker sprayed. So for example, you have three workers, maybe there's Thomas, there's Mumba, there's Sam. You know that, okay, Mumba is the one managing block 2A, Sam is the one managing block 4, Thomas is managing block 2, for example. You know that, okay, this was this operator, this was this operator, what went wrong? You are able to track. You're able to track, okay, on this date we did all these activities. So up to date records, daily logs of your input use, your harvest activities, your water use, staff training, disease outbreaks. Okay, we noticed this disease on this date. We went in with this. This is what we noticed. So these must be maintained and they should be traceable. So your farm map, it must show all production areas, your water sources, your storage facilities. So even now, you can even start drawing the layout of your farm. Draw the layout of your farm that, okay, this corner we want to see this we want to see this, so that you have that map out. Then we also mentioned your requirement details, the chemicals that you use. I think I've exhausted a lot of these points. The ones only registered or approved chemicals, proper chemicals. You should keep the storage area. And even for your floors, you can actually do where you have a tiled floor to easily wipe. Your storage shelves should either be, you can do, we have metal ones, so we can wipe those down. So that these were like, they're just these white metal like shelves. Don't use things that are wooden. How do you clean something wooden? So it's important you can use something that you can wipe down. Very, 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 very key, especially in your storage. So provide hand washing basins. All your harvest tools must be cleaned, disinfected. If you want to buy a good agricultural disinfectant, we have Sporkill, and yeah, we have, what is, they call it Sporkill, and we also have, which one? There's Viral Kill. These are good agricultural disinfectants that you can use on the floors. And even for example, if you want, when we were doing a lot of tomato, what we used to do is we used to put Sporkill in the bucket. So if we're pruning tomatoes, I'm about to touch another tomato plant, I wash my hands in Sporkill, dip my hands in Sporkill, prune, next plant, do that. It was tedious, but we just had to do that so that we manage field hygiene. So you can buy Sporkill. Sporkill is found from Hygrotech. It's also found in livestock services. You can get Sporkill. Virokill, you can find it at a lot of agro dealers. Even Sporkill you can find as well. So just have that in mind. And then, yeah, keep your records of your water testing and all of these. So like I mentioned, your container disposal, have that toxic pit, have that area, and make sure that even, your toilets, nothing is running off into your water. Control all your erosion, you do your mulching, you do all of that. And then your minor masts are very important. Some have a bit of flexibility. So these are 95% compliance. So these relate to efficiency, sustainability, and continuous improvement. So biodiversity zones, where maybe you plant hedges around to just maintain natural vegetation to support pollinators. So pollinators are these ones which help with your flowering. And then renewable energy use. So it's encouraged that you're using solar energy, yeah, just renewable energy sources for water pumping or lighting. Then buffer zones between treated and untreated crops. So this is where you just say maybe there's a crop that you just want it to just be like more or less like organic. So you have those kind of areas. And then efficient water use, maybe they'll tell you, okay, could you increase your use of drip irrigation and reduce sprinklers? And then they'll just encourage you to do things like mulching, so use of grass, manure management, where you use a lot of compost, no direct fresh manure use near point of harvest, because manure is more, it still has that bacteria, but you use aged manure, you leave it out to age. So that is also key. So these are just best practices that drive innovation. Ideas are not compulsory, but they just also boost your credibility and your competitiveness as a farmer. So, key takeaways: as you are planning now, focus on your major masts, have global gap in your mind. I mean, it's also one of my dreams to have a global gap certification to one day hit the export market in, high value production. That's a dream. And then keep all your documentation organized in hard copy or digital form. Regular training of your staff on hygiene. I think hygiene is the highest one. You find someone is digging their nose, maybe you have staff that has like when we were running the pack house, if a lady has a baby, should not be allowed in the pack house, should just be part of the people harvesting. You can imagine someone is changing diapers, they have a baby that's crying, they bring that baby into the shed, the baby would want to urinate. So we just kept a rule that no baby is allowed in the shed from onset. If you have a baby that is on your back that you come with to work, it's better you just do other activities more like the harvesting, the planting, the weeding. But in the pack house, no kids allowed, strict rules. So you stick to that. You really adhere and you stick to that. So you also start with one crop or enterprise, then scale to others like we had mentioned yesterday. And I think now we can move on to questions so that tomorrow we can cover proper the actual crop that you can grow in the summer. I've exclusively chosen cabbage. I've also added Chinese cabbage, rep, kind of like similar management practices. And I think we can move on to question and answer. So let me just check the chat if we have any questions. Okay, no, actually we are definitely planning something for a class. Maybe you can just come see. Right now we are more, the fields are kind of empty because we're preparing for the summer, so we can see something before, or even just at point of planting. We're preparing for cabbage actually, so we can do that. We can organize that with She Entrepreneur and see the logistics behind that. Yeah, no, record keeping, it can be a weakness. Yes, it can be a weakness. So yes, it would be very lovely to come to have you on the farm. Just a quick one: what could be common causes of premature flowering in Chinese cabbage? It could be seed. Last time, what kind of seed are you using? When I used Amiran seed, I noticed that it would flower easily. It would flower quickly, like even at a very small stage. So we opt for Stark Ayers seed for Chinese cabbage. So just maybe it could be seed. And then what are good sources for mulching material and which are good and affordable? So mulching material, we use grass. I don't know, I did a post today showing the grass that I was standing next to. That grass is very good for mulching. This common elephant grass, if you have some in abundance in your area, then you can slash that grass and just lay it in the rows of your field. So yeah, that is very, very helpful, especially on your farm. And in terms of mulching, you just have to be careful that you don't have any snakes. Do we have any other questions here? When is the best time to plant cabbage in readiness for festives? So the best time in readiness. So I'm even telling you people trade secrets so that we all make money before December. Um, Around Christmas, we planted end of August. From then the first week of September up to about the 10th, I think day after the 10th, then you know it's a bit late, but yeah, up to the 10th September, between that period, your cabbage by Christmas, if you are a person that doesn't mind not spending Christmas, you're cutting cabbage. We were cutting cabbage Christmas Eve, the day of Christmas, the day after Christmas. People were just coming onto the farm. We didn't even move a single day. I didn't even see a market. People from as far as Livingstone with trucks coming to buy cabbage. That's how it gets. Cabbage was hitting 35, 45 kwacha because there was a sheer shortage because of management practices. Diamond back moth, the biggest headache. Are there any more questions? And then tomorrow I will definitely do the lesson. And I think also just a budget template. I'll work on the budget template that you can just adopt so that as you are planning, you see how to put your costs. So this will be a digital one, but you can put it on paper. So what is the time? We have 10 minutes left. Thank you that the lessons are enjoyable. So everything is also on the notes, but it's also important. Maybe there are certain things that I've not really explained on the notes, but are there in the document you'll be able to see. So if there are any other questions, you can add. Oh, which question have I skipped? Would you recommend direct planting for rep on a huge scale? If it's a huge scale, just do direct planting, then you do thinning. You have skipped a question above. Sorry, okay. With all those pesticides and other chemicals, don't they make the vegetables unhealthy to eat? Isn't organic farming healthier? Organic farming, yes, it is healthier, but in times of pest, when you have pest pressure, you can go the inorganic way. What you can do, you can gamble a bit, whereby you only spray when you see a problem. There's that option, but you kind of be doing more of your preventative sprays. Usually with the pre-harvest intervals, and also I wouldn't really say it's very, very unhealthy, but I do an integrated approach. But I feel like these days I'm also kind of leaning more towards more sustainable farming practices. So I'm not doing everything entirely the conventional way. But for example, October, we kind of have no choice, especially if it's on a larger scale. But more of the smaller scale farming practices, you don't need to go all in like this. You can even just use things like Doom once in a while. You see a problem, then that can help. But if it's on a slightly larger scale, that's where you kind of have a lot of challenges with pest pressure and disease. But on a smaller scale, you would not have too many challenges with that. But also just, interchanging, seeing the problems, and just trying to have one agronomist told me if you manage your soils very well, even the pest pressure reduces. There's actually what do you call this? It's regenerative agriculture. It's an American company where they teach you how to manage your soil to the point that you have less pest pressure and you use less chemicals. It's called Soil Craft. It's called Soil Craft. So I think one of these days we can arrange that we have one of the Soil Craft agronomists, even just speak to us so that we think of doing the farming in a more um you know sustainable way, so that we don't have too much chemical dependence and reliance. May you please recommend some pest and disease programs for summer since they're the biggest problem? Okay, yes, I will. For summer. So I think if you go into the cabbage guide, I've put some pest management chemicals that you can use. So for your crop protection, but also spraying technique is also very key. Can one plant onion this time? Is early maturity also as good as the 5 months one? Yes, the early maturity one, you know that you harvest quickly. So if you plant now, it's better to plant now so that and if it's an early maturity, by the time it's December, it's not going to rot in the field, even if it's not yet ready. You don't want a situation where it's grown and then it starts rotting in the field because now you can't dry your onion properly. So the 5 months one, it's better maybe you start it in the rain season, then it's drying when we're coming out of the rain season, so that you sell about during the cold season where the prices hike, because during the rains, like I mentioned, the seeds wash away. So that also helps. Mm, do we have any other questions? So we just remaining with 7 minutes. So like I mentioned, even in the group, you can still type. Yeah, you can still type in the main group. Okay, no, you are most welcome. So you can still type your questions in the main group. I hope people manage to see the link for the market. You'll be able to just observe the market prices. So that will also help. Okay, I know I'm also looking forward to tomorrow's lesson as well. What variety can you recommend to plant cabbage? So you can plant Kilimo. The one I planted last time was Kilimo. This is a Stark Airs variety. Then usually different seeding places have different varieties for the summer. There's one that I've even just forgotten the name, but there's one that Amiran had last time, specific for the summer. So some will strategically grow the ones for summer, but I'll be growing Kilimo, Starkers, and I will be getting from Chimoko Seedlings. So you can check with Chimoko, Makeni Seedlings. They have, and Mayo Agro. Mayo Agro has as well for the seedlings. So we just have to manage it well. That's the key here. Management. Not very easy, but it's doable. So we just have under 5 minutes. Can share in, type in your questions, contributions. They're very welcome.
The benefit. Maybe I see.
There are some questions, guys. And
Mm. Fun using browser. Very interesting.
So if there are any questions,
Liga Amanda ikibisa kati Nika.
okay, so I don't think we have questions for now. I will prepare accordingly for tomorrow's lesson and let me see which other material is missing. Um, yeah, okay, yeah, no, yeah, there is a recording, so you can actually go back to this recording for if you need to go back, and also through the notes, and you can also share in your messages in the group as well. So I think, okay, what spacing can you recommend for someone intending to do cabbage? So with your cabbage, in between the lines, you can do 50, between the plants, even about 30, 45 centimeters. That also depends on your drip irrigation as well. So this is what we'll cover more in the cabbage lesson tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll end up I'll start teaching you people on cabbage now, and time has passed. So we just have 2 minutes left. And yeah, the questions can still come in on the group. Anything that's missing, you
Maybe
can.
a quick one. Maybe just a quick
Yes,
one, Manda. How do you
yes.
deal with the workers who they think they know it all, they don't want to they want to tell you the instructions instead of you. You tell them this, they do the other thing tomorrow.
Those workers, I think they're almost everywhere. We always have that challenge. And I think labor continues to be one of my major challenges. You can find you have everything available, but just that labor. Sometimes you just have to issue a warning and say, you're not doing things how I want you to do things. And that has happened to me whereby we've had to lay off. You have a very strong worker, but you find that that worker is a thief, or that worker is rude, doesn't follow instructions, but they are very, very valuable for you. But there are sometimes you just can't continue with certain attitudes, and eventually you just have to issue a warning, or you just tell them that if you continue with this behavior, I'm laying you off. And then you just be firm. You want things done a certain way, they should be done a certain way. Because that's always the case where they think they know more. No, we did this. No, this can't work. And then things in the end don't end up working out. So I think just being assertive, just being assertive would also be very, very key. Will yellow or red peppers be
Thank
part
you.
of the lesson? You're welcome. Peppers will not be covered in the lesson, but I'll be able to share some insights if you do have questions, especially when we are dealing with production, but it's not covered in this lesson. Please share a sample contract. Okay, I will. I will share a sample contract. I should have something for general worker and manager, salary guidelines. Maybe if you can give me specifics of what you are looking for in that worker, and maybe the kind of things they are managing. But if, for example, if you're providing accommodation for them, uh I mean, it fluctuates even with how much is on the farm, but standard, most are paying a 1,000 kwacha in terms of salary. But I do have sample contracts that I can share in the WhatsApp group, and yeah, I will share those as well. So before we call it a night, if there are any questions, or if there's anything that may not be covered, just list it here so that it's something that I can remember. And then as we do the summary lessons, that is covered as well. So you can just put that down so that in the next 2 minutes we can close up. But I've taken note of the contracts. I've seen this one on, okay.